All right, good morning or afternoon. Actually, it's already afternoon here in Vancouver, Canada. For all of those folks signing in, good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are in the world as well. Welcome to Masterclass. We are so excited to be kicking this one off. My name is Jenna, I guess before I go any further, and I forget to introduce myself. I'm joined by Kelly from the Optix team as well, who is our marketing and content manager. And I could not think of a better person to have on the line for this session, given that we are going to be talking lots about leads, nurturing and managing them in Optix. So if you have not had the chance to join us for a What's New before, this is a slightly different session where we are actually going to be diving into your Optix content in your dashboard, but we level up your understanding of the Optix dashboard alongside more of the industry insights and best practices that we learn from working with amazing co-working owners, operators, and community managers. I know there's some of you on the line as well. And so taking Kelly's expertise, she is going to be sharing a little bit more about marketing, both on your website as well through Optix, and how you can make the most of your Optix dashboard and the features that you are using to generate leads, or capture leads, I should say. Anything you want to add, Kelly, before we dive in?
No, I'm excited to be here. Yeah, let's get into it.
Okay, so we've got 4 sort of general areas of today's session. We are going to walk through a little bit more of the strategy side of getting familiar with marketing within your business. This is going to be where we talk a little bit more about external components, your website, CTA, content, all that really great stuff. We're also going to be talking about designing your lead journey. And that does start to really blends into Optix at that point, I would say. So we are going to talk about mapping that funnel and lining it up with your Optix automations. And then we're going to talk about how to nurture leads with automations and make sure that we also have lots of time for Q&A, hopefully. So if there are any questions as we move through, please drop those in the question tab in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. And this is definitely the best place to share any questions. It allows people to upvote in case they also have the same question. And there is never a bad question. So please, this is a live event. Don't hesitate to use our time. We'd love to make sure that if you have anything top of mind, that we cover it today. Okay, so where does it all begin, Kelly? I'd say before we even start to touch marketing strategies and Optix, there's actually a very, very important first step when it comes to getting your lead nurturing off the ground. And that is actually to know who your ICP is. So your ICP is typically your ideal customer profile, but Kelly, would you like to maybe dive in and share a little bit more about who the ICP is in our conversation today?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I laugh because I feel like every time we talk about marketing, it always starts with the ICP, but they really are the heart and soul of not just your co-working space, but your marketing strategy as well. So your ICP, ideal customer profile, sometimes called ideal member or maybe even target audience, is essentially who you're creating your space for. I can say that this will definitely evolve. Sometimes you know before you open your space. Sometimes it's something that comes as you get more members and you find who really fits in with your community well. In the context of our conversation, when we think about your ICP and how you are using that information to drive more leads and get more conversions on your website, it's really important to understand who are your members, what are the challenges that they're facing, and what motivates them. What is the messaging that is going to get them to take the action that you want, whether that's book a tour or sign up for a day pass or sign up for your space altogether. Understanding who these people are is then going to help you understand their decision-making journey and the information that you need to provide at each stage of the journey and map that to your website. Yeah. So it always starts with your customer. And then we'll help you to be able to design a better website journey and experience, which is then going to lead you to generating more leads and better convert those leads.
Yeah. And I totally agree. I feel like experiment piece, especially for new owners, operators. If you have opened your space more recently, there's a learning curve for sure. It's, you know, who's actually in your community. There's another layer of market research that I think often goes missed. And so, you know, if you have the luxury or you have the advantage of doing any market research, or you know your community really well, that's another part of defining your ICP is who's actually in your community who needs space. You know, are they the long-term dedicated people who've moved into maybe the suburbs or smaller towns who are now looking for private offices, or do you live in a more transient area and you're trying to serve people who need day passes? But I think, yeah, definitely understanding your market, you know, within a specific kilometer radius, and doing that research can be very impactful as well. And it can change. I think it is always, especially in the first year, always evolving.
Mm-hmm. And you can have more than one too. And you can tailor your website to speak to these different ICPs, of which there could be many. So
yeah,
definitely not static.
Yeah, really good point too. So how are these leads actually engaging or coming into your Optix dashboard? And there's actually 6 routes for somebody to become a lead in Optix. We're only going to touch on 5 today. The 6th one is called our visitor management app, and it is a gated feature. So we didn't want to dive into that one, just given that it won't necessarily apply to everyone. But if you are interested in capturing visitors through a visitor management app, that is also an option with Optix. For the point of our conversation today, we're going to be talking about the 4 widgets and also your user app. So the 4 widgets plug into your website. They also work as links, and so they can exist within emails, like your newsletter is a good example. They could also live on social channels. They could really live anywhere. Very common example is also to use QR codes on, let's say, if you have a business card or a flyer that says, you know, grab 1 free day pass here. Maybe it's a QR code that takes the lead or the user to your sign up widget. So the inquiry and tour, the first 2 widgets on this slide here, those are going to be for more of a gated community. If you are trying to get to know people before you allow them into your space or allow them to purchase a day pass or buy a membership, the inquiry and the tour form are very impactful. The drop-in and the sign-up widgets are designed more for action in the moment. And so the drop-in widget allows you to, say, put a meeting room on your website and have a CTA that says book our meeting room. And people can book that meeting room directly through your website. Bingo, bango, bongo, done. Same thing with the sign-up widget for plans and passes. The reason why they are also on this slide, though, is because you can have somebody start that process of booking the meeting room, but not complete the booking. And that's going to generate a lead for you in Optix as well. And this is incredibly powerful. If you're not using these widgets yet, and you're using a different tool, there's lots of other great software out there, and some clients will mix and match. But the real advantage to using all of the Optix widgets is that as soon as somebody puts their email address into that widget, we are adding that person to your Optix dashboard as a lead, and you have the opportunity to convert them with automations from Optix. So anything that you'd like to add here, Kelly, though?
Yeah, I mean, web widgets are really, really cool. I mean, if you've ever used a CRM system like HubSpot, a widget is essentially functioning like a HubSpot form. So someone is coming onto your website, they're inputting information into that, and then that's then feeding into Optix, and having their information in Optix then allows you to do all of those nurture sequences and the retargeting and the messaging that you want to do. So super, super powerful. The other thing that I love about the web widgets and the way that they've been designed, which I did not have any part of, that is the wonderful product team, but each web widget is designed for a different part of the user journey and of that funnel. So you can have multiple widgets throughout your website, and you should. They can be strategically placed and serve different purposes depending on where someone is at in their journey. So if someone isn't quite ready to book a day pass, but they want a tour, you're able to have widgets that allow for both of those actions to take place. So really, really, really cool. Should I jump into a screen share, Jenna?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of multiple widgets and very thoughtfully designed user journeys, I'm going to do a quick screen share of one of our clients' Coworks, Adam from Coworks, who's very, very cool. We did a customer story with him, I think last year. And yeah, absolutely love what he's able to create. And he is using some widgets on his website. Are you seeing this, Jenna?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Amazing. Okay. So when we think about web widgets and CTAs and like where do we put things on the website, it can get really overwhelming. So there's a couple of best practices that you can think of. One is you're going to identify your primary CTA, which is the primary action that you want someone to take on your website. And this is going to be different for everyone. For Adam, what he's gone with is a join now, which if you click on it is taking you to that sign up widget in Optix. So he is trying to drive you into his community immediately. And then that will allow him to engage in whatever marketing, retargeting, and nurture sequences that he wants you to do. So that join now CTA is super prominent. You're going to see it here. You're going to see it all the way down here once we get there. These join nows, which I think these are special, right, Jenna?
Yeah, this is actually a really good example of maybe, again, more of a masterclass. This might not be something that you learned maybe during onboarding, but there is ways with the widgets to do advanced embed or advanced link code so that that link where it says join now is actually taking you to the exact plan or pass or all of the plans and passes or all of the resources, if you're using the drop-in widget, that are only relevant to that location. So you can have CTA that says join Avoca Beach, and it's only actually going to show the relevant information to that user. So again, just piggybacking on Kelly's insight here of making sure that you have really custom and tailored CTA. This is a really good way to make that happen using the advanced code links with your widgets. All of the widgets, the drop-in and the sign-up widget and the tour widget can be customized.
Nice. Yeah, super, super cool. So his primary CTA is definitely join now. You see it a lot on the homepage. You also see it a lot on what we would consider more mid to bottom of the funnel pages, which would be like a membership page or a pricing page. He's always driving you to join now. But then we also have in the top nav a book a day pass CTA, which is taking you directly into the drop-in booking widget, which is really cool. So yeah, different web widgets, different CTAs for different people at different stages of the funnel. And you're able to do this all in Optix, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. Thanks for showcasing Adam's website. We should also link the webinar that Adam joined for last year for all about acquisition, because that is actually one of his specialties. So just speaking of, he's very talented at acquiring and has had a lot of success in his growth. So just continuing on through here, one other perspective of this, you can see here on the far left, the web widgets, inquiry, tour, drop, and sign up. And that's taking you into the account type in Optix. So I'm going to showcase this in a little bit inside of the Optix dashboard and how this works if you haven't seen account types. But the account type in Optix is how you organize and track that lead funnel. So again, the exercise, which we're going to showcase in another moment, of really mapping what your lead funnel is for your business, and it's different for everybody, but mapping your lead funnel and then thinking about all of the different account types that need to exist in Optix to match that funnel. And alongside that, for each one of those widgets, as I explained, you will have an automation sequence to nurture that specific type of lead. I guess one other thing that I will mention here, you can see just very small down the bottom before I forget, they are only considered a lead in Optix, or I guess there's a difference. In Optix, there's a user status and then there's a type. So your account type can be customized and that can say lead, but the user status can be active or unconfirmed. The unconfirmed user status does not count towards your Optix subscription. And that's where they're still in this, they haven't made it to the homepage of the app. They haven't completed the user onboarding journey. They're still in that, hopefully you can convert them stage. Okay, so yeah, I guess, Kelly, I'm going to pass this one off to you, but identifying or mapping your lead funnel.
Yeah, okay. So I guess maybe we can start with why it's important to do this in the first place and why it's important to understand your lead funnel. And that's because first, it's going to help you tailor your messaging to different stages of the funnel and different stages of that journey. So like we mentioned, someone who is ready to, submit through the inquiry form may not be ready to sign up to your space, and having that funnel mapped is going to then allow you to eventually create automations for different stages of that funnel. But it also helps you understand the conversion rate of one part of the journey to the next. And what that allows you to do is understand where people are dropping off and understand if you have a leaky funnel, which is maybe a lot of people are booking a tour, but they're not completing it. Or a lot of people are completing a tour, but you have a low conversion rate of people who are, booking a day pass or signing up for a free trial or whatever that is. So understanding that journey, understanding the conversion of one stage to the next is then going to allow you to understand where you need to be spending your efforts in order to optimize and get more out of the activities that you're doing. So it's a really important exercise. The way that we like to approach it at Optix is first you're going to identify your account types. Then you will map your milestones, and then you're going to design an automation for each one of those milestones.
Exactly. So I guess maybe more of a visual, if you're a visual learner like me, you can see the horizontal map that we're designing here. So for instance, this is an example, maybe more of an organization that has a gated community. So you are requiring an inquiry form or an application before you let that member purchase their membership or a day pass. And you might have as well a different definition of a lead. So that's one thing to also understand is that, some people still consider a day pass user as a lead because it's such a small part of their business, and what they're really focused on is memberships. We're really focusing on that lead versus member as the line I mentioned previously, where the user goes from unconfirmed to active. So we're focusing on here, the unconfirmed bucket. So in this instance, again, they've completed an inquiry form, and that might be the first stage or the account type you can see above, which is inquired. Using an automation, you might want to then send them an email to say, hey, thanks so much for completing your form. Now your next step is to book a tour with us. And maybe that's the first instance of when you share the tour booking link. You might not even have the tour booking link on your website if you always require an application first. So let's say they now come in and they've booked their tour. You're changing that account type to tour booked. Once the tour has been completed, again, that's the next stage of the journey here. Account type number 3, tour completed. And once they've completed that tour, you got to know them, you think they're great, you're going to say, you're welcome to purchase any membership, and you're moving them into a qualified lead. From there, maybe you also have additional steps or opportunities, including a trial day. And so again, knowing what all the different stages are of your business, you might even be doing this like as you're listening, starting to think about what are those steps, and then thinking about all the account types that go with that. And you can see again here, when you have that horizontal map of the entire lead journey or the funnel, you're going to essentially be building out automations vertically underneath each one of those milestones. So every different account type could have a different nurturing sequence. And the account type in Optix actually functions as a bit of it kind of works as like the pivot or keeps everything either in the automation or it takes the user out of that automation. So for example, if you have somebody, as you can see also on this, all the little icons that follow underneath tour booked, for example, you've got the first one which is an action, and the second one is a little yellow with a triangle. That's your condition. So you're using conditions and automations to say, has this tour been completed? Is this person, still a lead? And that's what's keeping them in this automation. And when their account type changes, that's what would then take them out. So I'll give you an example. Hopefully that will make a little bit more sense once we dive in. But in terms of your strategy, taking that funnel along a horizontal line and building your automations vertically underneath each different step. All right. Anything you want to add, Kelly, before I jump in and show some Optix pieces?
Maybe just one tip on the account types, since these were my little chips. I liked to color coordinate it. So anyone who is in kind of the lead bucket, or maybe who is not actively driving revenue for my space, I put them all as purple, and that'll help if you have, 15, 20, 25 account types. You can kind of quickly see and be like, okay, these are all leads, these ones are paying members, etc.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I think I do the same. We'll actually see it now. Am I doing the same? Let's share my dashboard and we'll find out. So I'm just going to quickly start by showing you where the account types live in case this is new. The account types live on the user themselves. And hold on, I'm just going to, okay, make sure you can see the data. Okay, perfect. So on the user, you can see here, the account type lives underneath the details section, and you can be changing this manually anytime. So, and I do it all in purple as well, Kelly. So same. Yes, the account types can be changed manually. You can also add your own in. And again, some clients will have 15, 20 of these because they really have a very different, or multiple different funnels that they're using. They also have a lot of different types of members, and they want to be able to distinguish, this is a VIP member, this is a part-time member. And when you get into the automations for upselling, which we're not going to really dive into today, but when you get into automations for upselling, having those different, again, the account types as the different milestones for the user becoming the most ideal member. Same concept as your lead funnel. So your account types live within the user. You can add more, like I said, color code them, make sure that they all look beautiful. When you add a new type, choose your color accordingly. And once you have your your account types all set up, I'm going to walk you through a very brief example of what an automation for tour booking follow-up could look like. If you're new to automations, this exists in the far left corner of your dashboard here, and I will show you the homepage again in a moment, but I'm going to just show you how this one has been built, and I'm actually going to build more out into it so you can watch how my brain works as I'm thinking about the sequence for this very specific milestone and following up. So here we're using the trigger for a tour has been booked. If you're a multi-location, you want to make sure that you are maybe giving the right information for the specific location. So in this example, I'm sending an email after they've booked that tour, and I'm also giving them information about my access control system. If you do use an access control system, Keezy or Salto or any other automated door system, this is usually a really important thing to include in an automation. Making sure people know, hey, when you arrive, our doors are actually a Bluetooth system, and you'll just need to make sure that you ring our doorbell because a member of our team will come to meet you for your tour. Same thing would be a very important thing to share with a new member so they know how to access the space once they've been approved. So you create the email, and I think one of the things that's really important as well is personalization as much as possible. You can use macro data within your automations. So that exists here. You'll see lots of options for you to be able to pull in information about the user who's booking or about the tour or whatever the automation is about. And then one other thing, as you're building this out, the emails in Optix, if you haven't set up your email integration, the emails that come from Optix will say like no reply at Optix. It's a system generated email. This is a really, really powerful part of automations as well. if you can integrate with a calendar or one of your emails, this allows you to not only be able to see this in your sent folder. So now you can be like, oh, I sent an email to Jenna about her tour booking, great. But it also has a higher conversion, like for the lead, them seeing an email that comes from Jenna at Optix has a higher conversion. It also allows them to reply directly to you and get into that conversation via email a little more easily. So a lot of value here for using the email component of your automations. One of the other things that I also always recommend is keeping your notification type transactional. Promotions are great if you're doing, an actual promotion with, let's say, another business and you're doing a big promotion for them. Promotional is appropriate. If you have collected their email for whatever event that they have given you their email for, then you can keep it transactional. Anything that you'd like to add there, Kelly?
Nope.
We'll definitely come back and talk more about content for like what to include in a bit. So it's as simple as that. You've got your trigger. I've added my action, which is an email. And then as I go through this, you can build this out as two separate automations, or you can build this into one using the delay until. So what I'm going to say here is I'm going to actually delay until, and Optix gives you a variety of very specific Optix data events. So in this instance, I'm going to say the upcoming tour. I'm going to choose this one, and I'm going to say one day before that tour, I'm going to send them one more additional email that says, hey, we're really looking forward to seeing you today for your tour. All the information, I'll just say one more reminder. And let me pull this here. Again, using that information from the macro. And as I go down, I'll just pop these in so we can do one more step. So you can see here, I have added the delay until with one more step. I'm going to now delay until, let's say tour again, but I'm going to do one day after. So this is, again, very powerful. Lots of our clients or they're familiar or they're using Zapier and other mail systems for their nurturing. But one of the really powerful things about automations is that it knows what's happening in Optix. And so it knows, when that tour date is, if it's changed. If you've moved that tour to the following day, we're not going to send this email until another day passes. It knows how many bookings that user has made, whether they've been in the app. There's so much more that Optix Automations knows that allows you to really personalize the experience. So what I'm going to do here, though, is I'm going to add this delay, and I'm also going to add a condition. This combination of delay and condition is really important because this is how, as I was explaining earlier, where you have that, vertical automation, you're using things like the account type to keep them in the right funnel. So in this instance, actually, what I might do even one step is I'm going to say delay until, I could do it on the day of, but what I'll just do here is I'm going to add an action for changing the account type to tour completed. So the management of your account types does not have to happen manually. You can also do that baked into the automations for your lead nurturing. And here now I'm going to change the account type, and I'm also going to use a condition that says if the user, I'm going to say user status or account type, but user status is a good one. If they're still unconfirmed, that means that they don't have a plan. They haven't purchased anything. They haven't actually finished their onboarding. So you're trying to find that condition that keeps or helps identify the user as still part of the same part of the funnel. So I could also do account has no active plan, has never used the app. There's lots of other examples. For this one, I will just use account status is still unconfirmed. So if they're still unconfirmed, this is going to be my moment to send another follow-up email to say, hey, thanks so much for joining us for our tour yesterday. Would love for you to learn a little bit more about the plans we introduced you to during your tour. So follow up. And as you go through this nurturing sequence, that delay and condition becomes very powerful. This can stop right here and you can say, great, that's, we've had one follow-up, but you can actually build this follow-up to last for a year if you wanted to. You can go as far as you want. Kelly, feel free to share any tips on that. But the delay, we've already got the delay until we don't really have any more. So I might just say delay 7 days. Again, assuming delay 7 days, they're still unconfirmed. Then let's send another follow-up. And maybe this is where you introduce them to, hey, why don't you come and try a free day? If you're not, advertising a free day up front, this could be the moment where you now introduce them to your first promotion. Anything that you'd like to add there, Kelly?
I think I'll just say that it's really experimental in terms of finding like the right cadence and the right content that works for you. As a general rule of thumb, you always want your messaging to be timely and relevant. So maybe having that first email after the tour completed be about the plans and passes that are offered is a really good idea. And then in terms of overall cadence, as a general best practice, again, you probably wouldn't want to send more than one email a week. And as time went on, you may want to make that more or less often, depending on what works for you. But again, it's all an experiment, right? And it's all about like trying something, seeing how it converts, and then being willing and open to iterate upon that.
Yeah. Nice. I'm going to show you one more example before we get into a couple other pieces. But for this one, this actually came from, it started with a recipe. So there's lots of recipes available to you. These will be getting a facelift in the coming weeks. So you might see something a little bit different if you jump in a few weeks. But these are templates that are designed to, first of all, give you inspiration, but also help you get started a lot faster. So you can find, this one is the one I'm going to actually show you now, but you can find inquiry follow-ups, tour follow-ups, unconfirmed user follow-ups, all in the recipe page as well. So this is one that I used. I took that recipe, a follow-up with new inquiries, and I actually built it out to be a little bit more robust for, again, a longer nurturing sequence. So a new unconfirmed user that came from the inquiry widget, again, going back to that really tailored experience that you're trying to create both on your website, and then also, you might have different types of leads that you're trying to get to know or collect. This is somebody who might be coming from a button that says inquire about private offices. If that's how you're using the inquiry form is to allow people to apply for dedicated space, then your messaging will be custom to, again, what your website is promoting. In this example, though, I am changing their account type automatically. So that's helping my user page, my organization. It's also going to help them stay in the right funnel. So they've now been tagged as inquired, and I'm going to send them an email that has lots more information about what's going to happen next. Tasks are something I didn't show in the last one, but tasks are also a really great way for you to reduce any risk with lead management in Optix. So, as much as we want to say that we can automate a lot, the human touch is still the most important thing. And so making sure that if, somebody has stayed an unconfirmed user for a week, 2 weeks, that maybe your team does get involved and tries to follow up with a phone call or reaches out directly. So again, going back into this one, I've created a task that's going to be assigned to an admin for them to do a little bit more, maybe put their sales hat on and do a little more follow-up. Then I'm waiting 2 days, and I'm making sure that if they're still unconfirmed or if their account type is still inquired, then, and a few other conditions, what do I have? Oh, I'm using a few other user properties here. So the follow-up was a phone follow-up. I'm using a user property to essentially track admin steps, and both of these were not the user didn't answer. So we haven't reached them by phone. They're still inquired. I'm going to then send them a little more information about memberships and continuing to nurture. So this is going on for over a month, actually. It's got additional emails. It's also helping me to change their account type after the month or so to unresponsive lead. So I'm not keeping them just in my inquired bucket anymore. I'm now organizing a group of users who had shown interest at some point and are no longer responsive. Again, having that group of users organized in your user tab. So let's say you want to say we've collected X amount of unresponsive users over the last year. Unresponsive lead, I don't have any at this point, but let's say you have members. This allows you, by having all of these account types organized and automatically organized as well via your automations, it allows me to then go here, great, I'm actually going to, maybe I'm going to enroll them into a new automation that's all about upselling. So these people, they might have fallen off the lead funnel. They haven't responded to anything, but here's a new time. Let's run a whole campaign to get them into a promotion. So having your account types is very helpful for just in general, more scalable promotions and faster or more efficient funnel management. Okay, so we have one question, Jas. Okay, awesome. Where do the notifications go? I will show you. And there's two areas that you can receive notifications. You'll see them here in the notification tab. So if you have a task created for you, you will see that you got a notification, you have a new task. You can also turn that on as an email. I think it's in here. Yeah, you can turn this on so that your admins also receive an email that says you've been assigned a task. And then I also believe you'll see it actually on the task tab. So lots of places for us to remind you that something has been assigned. Okay, so lots of live examples. I think a couple of things that were very helpful, or just, again, really understanding how to leverage automations effectively, is that combination of, I'll just pull it up again. The combination of delay and conditions, really important. And then also managing your account types automatically. Awesome. So I think I'll pause there, Kelly, and maybe allow you to share a little bit more information again, just on designing your milestone automations and some of the best things to be considering or hot tips.
Yeah, for sure. So when it comes to designing your milestone automations, these are essentially, you can think of them as a nurture sequence, like your traditional email nurture sequence that you would see in another CRM system, but with the addition of those other touch points like Jenna talked about, like the task or the phone follow-ups. So yeah, a lot you can do here. There's a few things to keep in mind, and we kind of organized it into these 5 categories that all start with C, which is very clever. So starting with conditions, your conditions, like Jenna was talking about, this can be the account type, it can be where someone is coming from, but conditions are really important in automations because it's making sure that the right messaging is going to the right people at the right time. So really powerful, you can do a lot with them, and it's worth thinking really strategically about what those conditions will be and how that will influence your automations. The next one is cadence. So cadence is how often you're reaching out to people and how often you're communicating with them. Like I mentioned earlier, I would say that there's no hard and fast rules in terms of like, this is, you should only send an email once a week or not sending it once a week. Like none of that really exists. I will say generally, we tend to see more frequent communication shortly after the action takes place. And then tapering off. So for example, if we're thinking about completed the tour, typically we're going to reach out to them more frequently within that first, 2 weeks or first month, and then taper that off to maybe 1 email a month or 1 email every 60 days. And when you send that email, we want it to be really intentional, which is a nice segue into content. Thinking about what you're sharing with people and at what time. So when are you inviting them to an exclusive promotion? When are you sharing more information about your plans and passes? When are you asking them for feedback on the tour experience? All of these things are really important to think about. I did a day pass, or I did a drop-in at a local co-working space in Vancouver, probably a year ago at least, and I still get emails from them that's like, hey, how are you doing? Hey, we just had this new update to our space. Hey, do you mind sharing some feedback? So these things can, like Jenna said, go on for quite some time, and it doesn't have to feel intrusive. It can feel very value additive, and it can feel really intentional. And content is a big part of that. Channels. So channels is how you're reaching out to people. Is that via email? It won't be messaging at this point because they're not a user in the app mostly. So it probably wouldn't be messaging. You're going to be relying on email. Maybe this wouldn't necessarily be something that you're doing in Optix, but maybe you're messaging them on LinkedIn, but you're creating a task for your admin in order to do that. There's a lot of different things that you can think about here in terms of how you're reaching them. And finally, cohesion, making sure that everything is cohesive, making sure that the messaging that you're using in your emails is cohesive and consistent with what's on your website, which is consistent with social media. The more consistent your messaging, the more likely it is that it is going to speak to your ICP and your target audience.
Yeah, really good breakdown. Thank you, Kelly. So I think just piggybacking on that, in terms of that longer sequence, or whatever series of emails or follow-ups that you're running, promotions it can be a very big part of that conversion goal. I'd say that we probably see, I mean, at least with the, after a trial or after a tour, we probably say that one free trial day offering really, I'd say probably over 50% of clients that I work with will try this or at least experiment with it. Because you've got their attention. They've come to the space, they've met you, and there might be something, over 2 weeks that's held them back from joining or coming back into the space. But you can do a lot once they're actually there. So free trial days is super powerful, super common promotion. The other two that we see that are on the board here are a 1 month free with an annual membership. I think also offering these at certain times. So again, it might be you've collected a certain number of unresponsive leads, or you've got a certain number of leads who have completed the inquiry form but never done a tour. This might be the group that you want to really push this incentive towards, to say, hey, we've got a % off discounts during, fall season. It's a come back to school or school. It's been a long time since I've been in school, whatever that season is called. You're wanting to specifically target the unresponsive leads rather than just, your day pass holders. So thinking about the different groups that you're trying to promote to, that can also be done with manual triggers with automations. So you can create an automation that has a manual trigger, and you choose who and when that automation starts. And so there's also a couple of really important KPIs. Maybe Kelly, you can speak to these ones, but these are going to definitely be in terms of seeing the effectiveness of your nurturing and of your marketing efforts. Making sure you're tracking your success is really important. So there's 4 on the board. I can let you speak to these ones, Kelly.
Yeah, for sure. I think this goes back to that lead funnel that we shared, and the mapping activity and understanding each of those milestones, and then the conversion between those milestones. So tours completed is a big one. You'll also probably want to look at tours booked, but knowing how many people went through that process of completing the tour is a signal that they're qualified, it's high interest, it's bottom of the funnel. That's really important. Again, looking at that conversion rate between tours completed and day pass. And then of course, day pass, if that is something you're offering, whether it's a day pass, a free trial day, maybe a drop-in, anything that's sort of that transient member who may or may not be paying. And then of course, trying to get them to convert into your member signups, which is anyone with an ongoing recurring plan for the month.
Yeah, I would definitely say member signups and tours completed are probably the 2 most common we see, just given that not all spaces offer day passes. Okay, we've covered a lot, and if you can believe it or not, we are at time, and there's still so much more that we could definitely be diving into, but we've covered a lot in terms of the taking a step back before you even get into Optix and automations and your lead or your widgets. I think your first step is always identifying where your leads need to come from. Where do you want them to come from? Are they coming from an inquiry form? Are they coming from a drop-in widget? All of that is really important to understand. I also think that we've said it multiple times now, Kelly, but experimenting is really impactful. I think that you have different people who land on your website, and having worked with hundreds of clients who've experimented with the tour widget, but not necessarily seen that conversion. I think there's an opportunity to also have the inquiry form, because maybe you have somebody who's interested in learning more, but they don't have an easy means to book a tour, or your tour times just don't line up for them. So having even an inquiry form and a tour widget, or having the sign up widget that allows them to book a free day pass. Like, there's lots that you can experiment with. Again, using really well directed CTAs on your website to make sure that there's something that's attracting their eye to get them to take that next step. We talked about account types and how those are impactful for your user management in Optix. It's also really important as kind of working as that piece to keep users in the right funnel within your automations. So those automations running vertically underneath every milestone step, you don't have to set them all up at once. I know I can probably see that can be intimidating, but understanding where the most impactful ones are to start with. Definitely tours is a big one. The first time that somebody might start the drop-in widget, if that is the one widget you're using, but they don't actually finish the booking. I was having a call with a client last week who said they have 100% conversion rate of people right now who start the drop-in widget and then get enrolled into the automation sequence. They have 100% success rate of those people then coming back down the line. So there's a lot of power, again, to just reminding people, keeping them engaged. We've also talked a lot about just best practices for designing automations and the different touch points. Think about those 5 C's and the different content that you can include. There's one really great example. I think we have a customer story on it as well from QSpace. And QSpace has done an incredible job with their automations. And whenever I get enrolled into one of their automation sequences, it feels really engaging. Like, they're using little emojis, and they're using different types of like eye-catching subjects, and it's a very engaging experience. So there's a lot that you can definitely be practicing with and experimenting with for just the content itself. So 4 hot tips: consider your channels, match your CTAs, which we've talked lots about. Automate, but keep it human is a huge one. Like, at the end of the day, automations is amazing. It is what we all need to be thinking about, but people still want to feel like there's a human on the other side. So using that personalization, or also creating tasks for your team to put their sales hat on and do follow-ups that are also, like you said, Kelly, good example. Maybe it's a LinkedIn personal outreach, or it's a phone call if you're collecting the phone number as well. And then deploying timely and behavior-based automations. Again, using Optix data, you can do that. So you're delaying until certain events happen. You're thinking about the whole sequence of when they should be getting touch points and how frequently. So we just had one little question, which was easy, and we answered it on the spot. So that was great. If you have any other questions about your lead nurturing, your widgets, how to use advanced versions of it. We didn't get into all of the actual technical side of that in your Optix dashboard, but please reach out to us through the chat box in your dashboard. That is the fastest way to reach us. And it's also, we have an AI agent who has a very high success rate at giving quick answers. So if you reach out with a message there, you might even get your answer immediately. And we also have next week another webinar, but this one is going to be, we have 2 external guests joining us from different platforms that are all very focused on automation as well. So you can join us next week for another webinar that's going to be chatting all about automation, AI, and the future of co-working technology. There's lots on the go. Anything else, Kelly, that you want to add before you wrap up?
No, that was great. Thank you, everyone. It was really fun to be here. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what everyone does with automations.
Yeah, there's a lot of power. And again, it can feel overwhelming. I want to make sure that everybody on this call or who's watching back this recording, if you're thinking about, holy smokes, I have so many different automations to go and create, remember that there are templates there to help you get started faster, and you don't have to do it all at once. Think about the most impactful spot of that lead funnel that you feel would be the most impactful right now. Experiment with an automation, or maybe create two and see how they compare, and reach out to us with any other questions, or if you have goals, we're happy to help as well design them with you. All right. Enjoy the rest of the day, everybody, and we'll be in touch.
Bye, everyone.